This is Massive X. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a lush evolving pad sound with 3 oscillators and some advanced modulation. Alright, so I'm starting with the initialized preset, the init Massive X preset, which you can find under the quick start category. It sounds like this, a basic sawtooth. The sawtooth is going to be the basis of our pad sound, so I'm going to keep that as is. In fact, I'm going to bring in the second wavetable and set that also to a sawtooth, which is on the right here. Sounds a bit boring, so let's add some detune. I'm going to right-click here and transpose this down a bit, and right-click here and transpose this up a bit. That's already sounding a bit more rich. Let's quickly jump ahead here to the amp envelope and tweak the ADSR. So attack at about the halfway mark, release at about the halfway mark, and sustain down a little bit. Alright, not bad. I'm going to bring in some noise as well. We'll just use this white noise. Now, the noise does sound a lot more significant and it seems like it's overpowering the mix compared to the 2 oscillators. So let's bring in a filter. I'm going to use this Blue Monarch filter. And we'll play with that filter frequency dial. Let's actually use an LFO to modulate it. Click and drag to set a very subtle amount. Let's use a sine wave shape and a very slow moving LFO. Let's also use this modulation envelope to modulate the same frequency dial. Very similar to the amp envelope, I'm going to have a long attack, long decay, long release, probably extra long release, and sustain at about the halfway mark. I'm going to make sure the LFO has a slightly wider range compared to the envelope. Let's bring in some more movement with the performer here. So let's drop the performer on that 3rd slot. So now we have 3 different modulators affecting that same parameter. I'm going to go with this shape and just randomly create a pattern like this. I'm going to set this range to just these 2 bars. Alright, not bad, very subtle movement there. Let's bring in a 3rd oscillator. Over here in the insert effects, we can actually add in a 3rd oscillator. Now we need to route this in the routing tab. Right now the signals or the oscillators and the noise are going into this oscillator. I do not want that, so I'm going to double click to disconnect this. I'm going to disconnect this here. And now let's route everything to the filter. And that should go to the output. Let's set this to a pulse shape and let's tune it up an octave. Let's modulate the pitch of this pulse oscillator. I'll use this 5th LFO here, or 5th modulator. Set it to a range of 12 semitones. And modulator shape is going to be a square wave. Significantly fast modulation rate. And let's bring the mix down so it's not too loud. I also want the pulse width to gradually change, so let's use L4 here. And let's give it a nice wide range. I'm going to set the sustain on that modulation envelope a bit higher. so the sound remains a bit brighter. Alright, next, probably the most important element here is the reverb. I'm going to use the Wanderlust algorithm. Let's have a listen to this. Let's add a chorus right after. I like adding chorus after the reverb. We can up the noise a bit more. Maybe pitch it up a bit higher. So staying a bit high on the amp envelope as well as the modulation envelope. Alright, so I think those dull moments are because of the LFO bringing the cutoff down over here. So let's change that LFO to unipolar, so it doesn't go any lower than this particular set position. Not bad. Now for the final touch, I'm going to add this voice randomization on the pitch for this first wavetable, also on the second one. Let's also add it to the resonance here. So now every time I play in a new note, those three parameters are going to be slightly different. Alright, so that's how to create a complex, evolving pad sound. I hope that was helpful, and please stay tuned for more Massive X sound design tutorials.